Good morning, dear teacher Tradish. So, in this morning, I'm coming to translation relationship of education with other disciplines. As you are aware, education is such a kind of discipline having a close connection with various social sciences, science, and even humanities subjects. And this lesson is an attempt to trace to find out the relationship that exists between education and the other disciplines. So I do hope that you will give your cooperation to make the lesson, lively, living, and meaningful. So, dear friends, let me try to explain before you the various relations that exist between education and anthropology to begin with. As a matter of fact, the term anthropology etymologically is derived from the ancient Greek word anthropos, which means man, mankind, humanity, and logi is again derived from the word logos, which means study of. So, thus, anthropology is the study of man. It is the study of humans, past and present, to understand the full sweep and the complexity of cultures across all human history. Anthropology draws and builds upon knowledge from the social and biological sciences as well as the humanities and physical sciences. Uh, the subject emphasizes in-depth examination of context, cross-cultural comparisons, and long-term experimental immersions in the areas of research. You see, anthropology sees certain interests and the subjects of study with the fields of social sciences like sociology, psychology, history, economics, and the political science. So, like sociology, anthropology involves the study of human society and cultures. But the subject began is a study of small-scale tribal societies, large-scale domes and ancient civilizations, and later moved to include global-scale societies. The subject involves the comparison of different societies in order to understand the scope of human cultural diversity. Anthropology also examines certain aspects of human psychology. It studies how people become enculturated, that is, shaped by the culture as they grow up in a particular society. Through enculturation, people develop culturally accepted ideas of what behavior is normal or abnormal and of how the world works. Anthropology examines how people's patterns of thought and behavior are shaped by culture and how those patterns vary from society to society. The study of history is also a part of anthropology. However, anthropologists often study historical documents to learn more about the past of living peoples. So, in addition to that, anthropology examines some topics that are studied in economics and the political science as well. But anthropologists focus on how aspects of economics and politics relate to other aspects of culture such as important rituals. Uh, you see, anthropologists compare differences among human societies to get an appreciation of cultural diversity. They also study the full breadth of human existence, past and present. In addition to that, anthropologists try to appreciate all peoples and their cultures and attempt to discourage judgment of cultural superiority or inferiority. Education, on the other side, has the important aim of inculcating human values in learners so that people learn to tolerate differences, develop compassion, and live in peace and harmony based on understanding and acceptance of mutual differences. So, therefore, the findings of anthropologies have helped us understand human beings and human progress in a detailed and holistic manner. This would go a long way in the furthering the aims of education is they relate to development of a universal brotherhood, uh, a world that not just knows and respect cultural differences, but a world that celebrates differences. Again, education has a close connection with economics. So let me explain it before you. Uh, there is a fascinating relationship between education and economics, right? Experts have shown that educational barriers exist between shifting economies, between labor-based ones to knowledge-based ones. Although experts can agree that the patterns have shifted from a labor-based economy to a knowledge-based one, there is no magic wand to predict how that future will look. It is no secret that educational opportunities and training directly coincide and bear an important correlation to the economy. Opportunities and the challenges will come. The problem arises in how to align such changes between the educational sector and the knowledge-based economy with the consideration of at least two key aspects looking at international competition in terms of labor technology and giving young people the adequate skills to compete by making education less expensive and more productively efficient while meeting the demands of market requirements. But there arises a question of overlapping issues in education and economics, and let me explain all that part within a short period of time. You see, many developed and developing countries of the world are trying to create high-risk economies and that issues around younger people's educational causes. Stakeholders to perceive that the current economic agenda doesn't support an improvement pertaining to either occupational aptitude or mitigating struggles to resolve issues. However, these complex issues cannot so neatly be broken down into isolated compartments. The approach herein shall revolve around five basic issues which obviously have some overlap in the worlds of economics and education. The commentary looks at the areas of economic theory, practice in terms of human capital, preparation or transformation of education, competition, and fifthly, today's young people as an implication of their education and knowledge-based economy skill set preparation. So hopefully, in this way, tiny inroads might be made into further understanding these issues and connecting the dots to a fruitful contribution to the literature and respecting the partnership and critical roles that both economics and education play in the scenario at hand. So therefore, education is paramount. Mind you, perhaps one way to clearly convey the situation is by utilization of economics as a discipline which recognizes the importance of measuring the knowledge-based economy. According to the article, the missing middle, aligning education and the knowledge economy, early educated workers are increasingly left behind in the attainment of better paying jobs opportunities, displaying a stagnating effect on the growth of the job market in the United States of America. It reveals that 6 out of 10 jobs were held by the university educated laborers and that correspondingly the wage premium increases versus workers has increased by some 70% since 1980s. The majority of workers who are falling by the wayside in the deterioration mode of low-paying jobs do not have a post-secondary educational experience. Right? I think it equally works in India too. Furthermore, given the big business nature of agribusiness, farm workers have nearly literally and figuratively fallen to a flatline situation of distribution in terms of drawing conclusive connections between work and education of knowledge-based skills to stimulate the economy. So here lies the facts associated with the role played by economics in improving education. So what might this mean in terms of comparativeness for the United States or India as compared to other countries? Yes, the answer are clear, especially when you consider literacy as the baseline from which to build economics growth in a fast-changing globalized economy. Economic theory is one thing, but carefully recorded statistical data presented in scholarly economic writing is not arguable, placing the need for more comprehensive remedies to occur in the practical realm of human capital. Now, let me try to spell out the relationship that exists between education and genetics. Intelligent quotient is a strong predictor of how children perform in schools exams. That schools are largely unsuccessful in raising the IQs of pupils, and that intelligence is a highly heritable characteristics, which is to say that more than half of the variance in intelligent quotients at the population level is due to genetic differences. That is true. Uh, but a question arises. The question is, why is genetic data controversial in education? Genetics is controversial in education because it is sometimes used to support arguments of determinism, right? In the deterministic narrative, schools have limited influence on children's academic achievement in the face of more powerful forces, be it genetic variation or socioeconomic status. Genetics additionally has negative historical associations with discrimination on the basis of race. Okay. Now the question is, how can genetics benefit education? So let me try to find out answer to this question. Right now, the main message from genetics is that not all differences between children in educational outcome are environmental. Since around 60% of individual differences in school achievements are explained by inherited differences in children's DNA sequence, schools can still, through education, can influence the remaining 40%. Uh, in the future, based on progress in precision medicine, the ultimate promise held out by the application of genetics to education is that we will be able to identify the optimal environments to maximize the genetic potential of each child to realize their talent. So this is a long way off, and it requires identifying the biological basis of learning, no mean feat. And there are broader ethical issues to consider about genotyping one's child and handing over the data to their school. But the promise shows that direction of travel, far from arguing for determinism, genetics is about identifying the base environment for individuals to thrive in. Uh, Before then, as a society, we need to make progress on deciding how we feel about differences between children in contrast to how well all children are performing. It may be that maximizing every child's potential doesn't narrow the gaps between them. And when education empowers every child to reach for the stars, we may have to accept that it is different stars that children are aiming at. That is again a good relation between education and geography. So let me spell out in this part too. The geography of education and the educational systems deals with the causes and the consequences of spatial variations in the provision and the consumption of education. The impact of local milieu and of social and cultural environments on educational attainment, spatial variations in the socio-demographic structure of the teaching process profession, the influence that political systems, educational policies, demographic change have on location patterns of schools and universities. The spatial mobility of scholars, students, and ideas, other issues where places, spatial relations, and social environments have an impact on education process. In a knowledge society, the educational system is an important sounding board of societal and the economic structures and processes. Various indicators of educational attainment and achievements are used to uncover social and economic inequalities and to display unequal power relations. Mind you, geographers investigate and interpret the places that make up our world. In this investigation, geographers use three complementary analytical perspectives: place, environment, and space. Geography's distinct contribution to the school curriculum is that it teaches students essential knowledge about the world and their own place, contributes to their personal development, equips them with a unique range of specialized skills, develops a specifically geographical way of understanding, and examines important questions and issues that are essential for informed citizenship. So without geography in the curriculum, there would be some major gaps in the knowledge, capabilities, and understanding of students. Now, let me try to spell out the relationship that exists between education and political science. One of the purposes of formal education is to inspire students to take a greater interest in civic responsibility. This means teaching them about political issues and encouraging them to take a position on those issues. So, in so doing, politics and education becomes linked together. So, it is important to understand how one affects the other. There are several factors that influence the relationship between political involvement and education. For instance, those with more developed cognitive functioning are more likely to take an interest in politics. Those students gifted with more advanced verbal skills, coupled with a talent for abstract reasoning, are often more interested in political issues, right? Students with these abilities who additionally have strong memory recall typically perform better in school as well. The fact is that there is a uniting bond between education and politics. The primary role of education is to educate through improving a student's reading, comprehension, and understanding. Picture a world governed by uneducated leaders. Education broadens one's line of thought and enhances collective intellect in general. Politics and education are two areas that rely on the same disciplines that are centered on learning. The fact that every teacher was once a student, every leader was once an apprentice. One thing, however, remains constant: knowledge is paramount. Again, education and the philosophy has a very close connection and relation. Education and the philosophy, the two disciplines are very closely related, and in some areas they overlap each other. So it is quite often said that philosophy and education are the two sides of the same coin. Education is the dynamic side of the philosophy, I should say. To elaborate further, philosophy and education are the two flowers of one stem, the two sides of one coin. One can never be thought of without the other. The presence of one is incomplete without the other. The art of education cannot be completed without philosophy, and the philosophy cannot convert others to its aim and values without education. So there is a close interaction between the two. one without the other is unserviceable. Uh, Education is practical in nature and philosophy is theory. It is not vague to say that theory and the practicals are identical. The educator who has to deal with the real facts of life is different from the armchair theorist who is busy in speculation. But a close observation of the various interpretations of philosophy will prove that these two are nothing but one and the same thing seen from different angles. Philosophy is, after all, the study of the realities, the pursuit of wisdom. It is not a mere theorizing, but something which comes naturally to every individual. A person who goes deep into the region and the nature of things and tries to arrive at certain general principles with a view to apply them in his daily life is a philosopher, right? So philosophy, I should say, if I'm not mistaken, is a way of life. In a wider sense, philosophy is a way of looking at life, nature, and truth. It sets up the ideals for an individual to achieve them in his lifetime. Education, on the other hand, is the dynamic side of philosophy. It is the active aspect and the practical means of realizing the ideas of life. Education is a sacred necessity of life, both from the biological and the sociological point of view. It is true that education works like a catalyst for a better life, a social, desirable life. As a pot is made out of clay and a finished product comes out of raw material, so also from the immature child comes out of the civilized man through education. So education renews and rebuilds the social structure in the pattern of philosophical ideas. Human being who is born and grows up with inherited propensities determines the basic trails of man, but education paves a long way for his success in life. So education, according to Indian tradition, is not merely a means to earn living, nor is it only a nursery of thought or a school for a citizenship. Rather, it is the intimation into the life of the spirit, a training of human souls in pursuit of truth and the practice of virtues. The basic relationship between philosophy and education can be analyzed in different ways. It is philosophy that provides the purpose or the aim, and it is the education which makes it practical. Philosophy, I should say, shows the way, and the education moves on in that direction. When we define education as the modification of human behavior, the direction in which modification to be carried out is determined by philosophy. Thus, philosophy deals with the end and education with the means. Do you understand my point? In fact, we can observe that the great philosophers of all times have been also great educators. So, for example, Socrates and Plato, the great philosophers, were also famous educators. Uh, a teacher is not a teacher in true sense of the term if he or she is not able to discover the relationship between philosophy and education. So according to Thompson, every teacher should realize the importance of philosophy in education. Good philosophy thus would not only conceive the type of society which is needed in the society, it is philosophy which would give to the teachers a sense of adventure. A true teacher should have knowledge of the subject he or she teaches the pupils and the society. He or she should also have the moralistic sense which comes from philosophy. The choice of students must cater to the principles and the purposes of philosophy. Choice of curriculum needs philosophers or leaders of thought. With the change of time and circumstances, the curricula also changes, and the change can be brought out by philosophers alone. The necessary conditions should be fulfilled so that the child is allowed to go in a free atmosphere with the ultimate aim of becoming a happy and a rightly adjusted person of the society. The learning process is an active way of doing things. Hence, the curriculum for the child should concern itself with the realities of life as far as the methods of teaching is concerned. It can be said that the child is influenced to give a particular shape to his life by the way he is taught. The philosophy of the teacher is reflected in the child by his method of teaching. So, the course of life of the child is definitely influenced by philosophy. Here comes the utility of philosophy. Uh, the education philosophy relationship may be further explained, but it will be a long process. Uh, s- uh, to conclude, I should say, education is a laboratory where philosophic theories and speculations are tested to make concrete. Education may therefore be rightly called applied philosophy. Philosophy is wisdom. Education transfers that wisdom from one generation to the other. Philosophy is in reality the theory of education. In other words, education is the dynamic side of philosophy or application of the fundamental principles of philosophy. Philosophy formulates the method, education its process. Philosophy gives ideals, values, and principles, those ideals, values, and principles. A philosopher tries to live in accordance with those aims and values and also wants others to be converted to his beliefs and live according to them. This he can achieve through education, which is the base means for the propagation of his philosophy. Darwinism gave rise to the prominence of the principles of struggle for existence, cutthroat competition, gradual process of adaptation of the purposiveness of life, or Alan Vital, intellectualism, and man's faith in reason. Emphasis on knowledge concept universal acceptance. Now, in 20th century, the two world wars and the consequent mass destruction wrought by the application of science gave rise to less of faith in mere intellect. So humanism, faith in higher principles and values of life, character development, and emotional integration gain greater impetus. Psychology again helps educators in selecting the right method of teaching. It helps teaches his students according to the interest and mental development of the students. Give instructions through different methods which should be linked with psychological problems, needs and developments of the child. It also helps educators able to select the right teaching age in terms of use of audiovisual aids, making the learning easy, interesting, and effective. And side by side, psychology also helps educators able to develop certain innovative ideas in teaching learning process. Innovative ideas for improving the process of teaching and learning, such as activity-centered teaching, development and introduction of micro teaching, program instruction, interaction analysis, etc. Very interestingly, knowledge of psychology also helps the school community, brings about better health. Education can create opportunities for better health. Poor health can put educational attainment at risk. Conditions throughout people's life, beginning in early childhood, can affect both health and education. So, therefore, with working knowledge of psychology, the thesis play an important role in keeping good health of the learning community in a school setup. Last but not least, let me try to explain before you the close relationship that exists between education and sociology. So an individual can learn very little by himself. Others play a very important role and contribute a lot to his learning process. And the presence of the person is important because a person learns from the knowledge gained by others. Therefore, the process of getting education is always a social process. Here lies the important role played by sociology in the process of education. You see, the word sociology is derived from the combination of the Latin word socius, meaning companion, and the Greek word logos, meaning the study of. So, the word literally means the study of companionship or social relations. It is a science of the study of the origin, development, organization, and functioning of human society. It is a science of fundamental laws of social behaviors, relations, and institutions, etc. The meaning of sociology can be summarized as follows. Sociology is the science of society. Sociology is the study of social relationships. Sociology is the study of human behaviors in groups. Sociology is the study of social structure. Sociology is the study of social patterns. Sociology is the study of social action. And sociology is the study of different forms of human interrelations. So Emily Durkheim was the first person who indicated the need for a sociological approach to education. So he considered education to be essentially social in character and in its functions, and that as a result, the theory of education relates more clearly to sociology than any other science. He emphasized that education is not a static phenomenon, but a dynamic and ever-changing process. So, do you understand the point? Educational sociology is, after all, a discipline which studies education sociologically with the premise that it recognizes education as a social fact, a process, and an institution having a social function and being determined socially. Educational sociology could appear only when it accepted the social nature of education. So, frankly speaking, the concern of sociology is socialize individual, while education is the process of socializing individuals. Education is, after all, the means for achieving the goals of sociology. It is a laboratory and the workshop of sociology, while sociology develops methods, techniques, laws, and the principles to be adopted and practiced by educational systems to attain its goals. So it is a sociology which contributes greatly to the planning, execution, monitoring, and evaluation of educational process, generates database which is consumed by education systems, put forward the ideals and the social values, preserve the social cultural heritage, and all these things, and through all these things, education brings about reforms and the changes in the field of sociology. So in this way, education has a very close connection with various science, social science, and the humanities subject. So with this, let me say thank you. Thank you once again for attending to my lesson. Thank you very much.